I would say that if you learn the what and you learn the why, but you have no clue how, you're kind of in a pickle, aren't you? Because now you know what you ought to do and you're all fired up to do it, but you don't know where to start. So we got to know the how. The Bible's so practical. Everything God calls us to has practical application and meaningful. It's real. It's not just theory. James says in chapter 1, verse 22, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Now, pause just a second. See, I like to ask that question. Why is that in the Bible? Why did James say that? Well, because, and if you've been around the faith or in church for a long time, you've probably seen a little bit of this and maybe even been caught up in some of it. We can become conceived or deceived sometimes when we begin to think, well, I know a lot about God. I can answer all the questions in that Bible study. I walk out of there feeling pretty good about myself because I know a whole bunch about God. And then somebody cuts me off and I demonstrate that I don't really know as much as I thought I did. Right? Because it's not about how much I've got up here. It's about how much of it has translated into character and Christ-likeness. And so James says, be careful that you don't get confused and think that because you've learned a lot of information that it's automatically moved into transformation. Don't be deceived by that, but do what it says. Do the word. Doing the word is so powerful because beside that phrase, you could write this, the word submission. Our culture doesn't necessarily love that word, but it's actually a beautiful word. Anytime we do the word, it's always about us submitting to the lordship of Jesus. It's all about us, and literally the word submitting means to come under. To come under the lordship of Jesus and say, you are King, you are Lord, and I am your child, I am your servant. The beautiful thing about submission is when you're under the Lord, He's also responsible for the consequences. Isn't that awesome? You say, you know what, Lord, I'll follow you, I'll trust you. This doesn't make sense to me. My way would be to go do it this way. But if I go do it that way, I'm going to reap all the fruit. And a lot of times, have any of us lived enough chapters of life to realize I don't always like the fruit I reap? Right? So I come under the Lord and I submit to Him and I say, I'll do it your way. And you're going to learn that always leads to this beautiful fruit of righteousness and peace and joy. But also, when hard times come, He's responsible for the consequences. He'll take care of that. It's awesome. So you submit to the Lord. There's lots of verses in the Bible that kind of reinforce this. I just pulled two out. And again, you can write these in your notes if you're taking notes. Proverbs 3:6. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. He's just saying the same thing that James is saying. Acknowledge, submit to, surrender to. Choose to say, I'm not going to do it my way, I want to do it God's way, and He'll make your paths straight. Psalm 37:4. Man, it's been a memory verse for mine for 100 years. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. You know what? That verse means a lot to me because I've kind of, you ever had a verse in your life where you thought you understood it when you read it, and then a few years later you thought, I'm not so sure, I think there's more there. And a few years later, and when I started with Psalm 37:4, I thought, so if I do churchy stuff, I can pray and God will give me what I want. And then the longer I read, I was like, oh no, that can't be it. That's not it. But what happened over the years is I came to understand that if I will submit to Him and I will say, Lord, you are my delight. You are my delight. Having you in my life and knowing that I am in you and knowing that your grace fills my heart and that I've been redeemed and rescued and I'm secure in Christ and I'm walking with you, trusting you every day. And as I do life in a way that makes you smile, that brings joy to my heart. See, when you make God your delight, you'll find out that what delights your heart is walking with him. It's awesome. But again, it's all about coming to this place where we do the word. We find out what it means to say, Lord, empty me of me and fill me with you. That is the secret sauce to spiritual growth. Okay, if you're looking for the secret, there it is. Empty me of me, fill me with you, Lord. Help me to do life your way.